Darian O'Toole. 50,000 mind-bending watts of bitch.
Oh, it's true what they say. The devil comes disguised as a beautiful woman.
Q104.3.
Kevin Bacon and his brother Michael in the studio. The Bacon Brothers.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, am I saying it right? Forosoko?
Forosoko.
What the hell does that mean?
Well,
am I stupid for not knowing that?
No. You would be stupid for knowing it, actually.
Oh, good. Thank God. I got one.
By the late 1990s, Darian O'Toole had an extensive radio history, and she was primed and ready with a new gig in New York City to take on Howard Stern himself. I'm Life with Aaron, and this is the rise and fall of Darian O'Toole. That on-air firebrand that we would know and love later on as Darian O'Toole would be born Karen Ann Begin in Halifax, Nova Scotia in 1967. Born to a homemaker mother and a part-time electrical engineer and part-time country music singer father, Karen had an eclectic upbringing. Attending school at Prince Andrew, her classmates would universally say she was a good friend, the funniest person in the room, and she was fearless. In fact, at the age of 8, she had the chance to co-star with Kiefer Sutherland in a Canadian television production. She would appear, in her own words, in a number of hokey Canadian sitcoms over the next several years, but her star was on the rise. In college, she would study acting, and entertainment was in her blood. With the encouragement of friends and family, in addition to her television work, Karen would get into radio, and she seemed to have a natural ability for it. Also at this time, the friendship that had started when they were just kids had blossomed into romance between Karen and Kiefer Sutherland. So much so, Karen was in the whirlwind that was the breakup of Kiefer and Julia Roberts. In 1991, having self-described as fallen for a man in Jersey, Karen made the decision to head for the United States. And with her extensive background in the entertainment industry, getting a special talent visa was no problem. Karen was on her way. Now in the States, in the fall of 1991, Karen would land her first on-air role in the U.S. That with WXPN, a public radio station in Philadelphia. She was ready for this opportunity, and she wouldn't squander it. By 1992, just 6 months on the job, Karen had become so popular that local Philadelphia magazine ran a story on her. This was not something that Karen wanted to happen.
There, get up obscenely early and drag myself out of bed. And then be really perky for 4 hours. Smoking in the boys' room, compliments of the crew on Rock 103 XZL. Thanks for turning us on.
Just when everything seemed to be going well for disc jockey Karen Begin, she had a rude awakening.
Shannon Rock on Rock 103 XZL.
These days, she's known as Shannon Rock, and she works for a small radio station near Baltimore.
Rock 103 XZL, the only morning show in Baltimore that has balls, even though the host is racist.
She used to have a radio show in a much larger city, Philadelphia. That was before she lied to her boss and was fired.
I lied on my resume. Show me an actress who hasn't lied on her resume, and I'll show you a waitress.
Karen wasn't interested in waiting tables or doing anything else in Canada, where she was born.
A couple minutes after 8, I'm Shannon Rock. Welcome to my wanton and reckless disregard for good taste and convention.
What she wanted was to be on the radio in America.
Animal Bag, I love this tune.
Why did you do it?
I did it to get into the country, to get a special talent visa. Radio is not considered special talent. Unless you can play hockey or you're Michael J. Fox, you cannot get your paws on a special talent visa. I got angry and frustrated, and I went to an agent And I said, okay, here's the deal. I want to go to America. How are we going to do it?
Bottom line, you look up in the dictionary, we lied.
Kevin Carver was Karen's agent in Canada.
And she made up some beautiful, plausible movie titles and television show titles that she could have starred in.
So what did they make up? They said that Karen had a feature role in the Canadian television series Hangin' In. She now says she had a bit part in 3 episodes. They said she was in the comedy Meatballs.
Really?
That was a lie. They said she was in the horror movie Happy Birthday to Me. That was also a lie.
704 with Shannon Rock. If you don't like me, you're not paying attention.
Were you reluctant at all when you sat down to write the inflated resume?
See, now the good Karen wants to say, yes, I was. I had a lot of sleepless nights. But the bad Karen just wants to tell you, hell no. We had a ball with that resume.
The party ended when Karen got caught. 6 months after entering the country, her lies were exposed in a Philadelphia magazine article.
When I saw the article, the day that I read the article, I passed out.
In fact, even within this story, remember this guy? Not her Canadian agent, simply a friend. He got a free trip to New York City based on this story. That was his only purpose for participating.
No one had ever lied to me, I guess, as extensively. No one had ever gone to the lengths she had gone to.
Philadelphia Inquirer reporter Joe Logan was just one of those who came to her defense.
I talked to her for 2 hours. I sat down with her in the office of the radio station.
Logan believed what Karen said, so he wrote a newspaper column defending her against the magazine piece.
She had names to call. What I did not know at the time was that she was methodically going through this list, calling these people in Canada, saying, a reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer will be calling you. Please verify what I'm telling him.
And then, to make sure, Karen provided more proof.
From Canada, a letter from the Magi Tutorial Service in Toronto, which says, please be advised that Miss Karen Begin has received regular tutelage from our agency for the past several months on the set of Hangin' In.
Is this true? Is this her?
No, this is completely bogus. There is no
I think the bottom line is if you have the talent to be where you are, then it just doesn't matter how you got there, as long as you don't hurt other people, and I didn't hurt other people. That was never my intention.
Who gets hurt? Ultimately, her radio station certainly was embarrassed. They had all band together to support her. They had rallied. They were very embarrassed. We as a newspaper, certainly our credibility is on the line.
You must either really love me or you're incredibly stupid.
So at this point, you're probably second-guessing anything that we've talked about in regards to Karen Begin. And I can understand that. You heard in the report about her telling people in Canada, you're going to be getting phone calls. Please say you're these entities, the CBC, etc. Past friends who have known her in her acting background. There, to this day, is no concrete evidence that she did any acting in Canada, although some friends do say they remember her in small roles. On her IMDb page, it lists 3 American films, but nothing in Canada. Oh, and remember the whole Kiefer Sutherland fiasco? The romantic relationship that she had with him. They started out as child actors in Nova Scotia. Is that true? In 1993, the Orlando Sentinel would go on to report that Kiefer Sutherland had won a case for libel damages against British tabloids that had reported on the story. He asserts that this was a work of complete fiction by Karen. He never knew her and certainly had no relationship with her. There are still friends that to this day assert that they had some sort of relationship. Kiefer says no. And based on her track record, I kind of have to go that way too. Although perhaps embarrassed and feathers a bit ruffled, Karen would not stay unemployed for very long. She would go over to crosstown station WMMR in Philadelphia. Later, she would go to Sacramento. And then finally, in 1994, she would hit pay dirt with an excellent opportunity in San Francisco, California. The production director for KBGG in San Francisco, Jerry McCracken, would bring Karen in to serve on a late-night disco show that he would do on Saturdays. Just a few short days of hearing Karen, he knew that he had found his new morning person. A highly coveted role for Karen in the number 4 market in the United States, San Francisco. But it would come with a change. Jerry would be the one to give her new on-air name, Darian O'Toole. Remember back to where I said she was brought in for the disco show? Dancing Fool, Darian O'Toole. A bit cringy, but it's true. That's how she got the name. And from this point going forward, I will refer to Karen as Darian as she made the switch. At this point, Darian had talked about a lot of male chauvinism, a lot of sexism that she had dealt with in the industry, and I don't doubt that's true. And I know some of you may be saying, well, the lying didn't help, and you're right as well. But I'm sure her being somebody who was kind of a take-no-prisoners DJ, and whatever the case, whatever the lies, she had talent. But now in San Francisco, she was given the opportunity, she was given the chance, and she was given the O.J. Simpson trial. This was the moment when the public was really starting to consume that 24-hour news cycle. And Darian, although she didn't like the term shock jock, she was really starting to hone her chops as the first female shock jock in the mainstream. Darian rode the O.J. Simpson trial wave from 24th in the ratings for morning drive time in San Francisco all the way to number 1. But as the trial came to an end, people felt that the show was starting to take a hit. And the creativity, the spontaneity was starting to suffer. Although Darian would stay for 4 years, she would leave in 1998. Her sights were set on New York City and Howard Stern.
I'm just calling because I'm a radio broadcasting student right now, and you're a total inspiration to me. I totally admire you, but I have to warn you, I will have your job in 4 years.
You could have it in 2.
I could have it in 2. Really?
Every broadcast student's going to be me.
This time in Darian's life, she would go on to say was her most creative and that she did some of her best work in radio. But she did not agree with the comparison between her and Howard Stern. She thought the publicity was over the top, and trying to take on the biggest name in radio right away, her first moment she stepped off the plane, she saw the magazines comparing her to Stern. And she said it was a mistake. You start slow with that, you build a radio war, and you work from there. And unfortunately, her time in New York was rather short, and going up against Howard Stern had been a complete and utter failure.
I guarantee you your show will sound just like mine.
Really?
Yeah, except you'll be real bad. You'll be real bad, and you'll think you're real funny, and no one will get the joke, and you'll be fired like that other dizzy broad they brought into New York for a while.
Who was going to put us on our butt?
Yeah, she was going to kick my ass, too. What is it, the Howard Stern clone?
Well,
yeah, there's so many broads. And now there's Howard Stern broad clones.
Yeah, they think maybe a woman will be able to do it.
Yeah, it's a man's job, honey.
After being fired after just a few short months in New York City, Darian would return to the familiar confines of San Francisco. But the audience, who had loved her irreverent, offbeat, non-PC attitude and her great coverage of the O.J. Simpson trial, had simply moved on, and she was let go in 2000. She would then go to the Peak radio station, an alternative station in Washington, before heading back to Canada and Q104. The other Q104. Now, it should be said, a lot of you may be saying, whoa, she's getting fired from a lot of jobs. Well, in radio, that's par for the course. You have different PDs. You have formats change. That's a nature of the business. But if you have talent, you find work. And Darian did. Back in Canada, she hoped for a fresh start. During her time at Q104 in Canada, she got very sick. She's also dealt with cancer in the past, and she had an illness which she never really went into full detail about, where she said she ballooned up to 360 pounds. And you've seen in pictures and videos on here that her weight has fluctuated quite a bit. But at Q104 in Canada, she actually was removed from the air one night due to drunkenness and was fired. This brings up a part of Darian's life that had never really been out in the open, a battle with alcoholism. And that battle would haunt her for the next several years. Also around this whole crazy time was a lie that persisted, a rumor, if you will, that Darian had died in the Twin Tower attacks on 9/11. She had not, and like she had in the past, this phoenix would rise. She bounced back and again was finding success in San Francisco at KIFR Free FM.
Right. Norm MacDonald, 106.9 Free FM. Hi, Norm.
Hi, Darren. How are you?
I'm good.
Sweet.
What are we promoting? Because you wouldn't be here if you weren't promoting something because you don't love me. Yet. You will soon.
The Darian O'Toole Show began to be the go-to place for comedians in San Francisco. She would have a veritable who's who. Dave Attell, Patrice O'Neill, Kevin Nealon, Norm MacDonald. Her star was being solidified until her demons came out. And in 2006, Opie and Anthony seized upon what would be her last show on the radio ever.
The Office this morning. Steve was playing it. We were getting a good little chuckle. And I don't know any of the circumstances, but she does indeed sound like people I have heard that have been drunk. A lot of slurring, a lot of blank, open spaces, a lot of being out of the conversation completely.
It would be the moment when Vince proposed to her. Didn't happen. Didn't exactly happen. 888-500-1069. Dustin, you're on the air with Darian on 106.9 Free FM.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah, hey. I just want to say, who cares about celebrities' lives? I don't understand why people spend so much time getting rumors and who said what and who's seeing who. I don't understand it.
It's big business. It's on the front of every paper.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is I don't understand why people like that. I just don't understand what they're targeting or who they're targeting or why these people are so involved in it. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
That was really all I wanted to say. I mean, I'm just shocked by people that get all involved in this.
So how is your relationship?
It's great.
Yeah? Are you married?
No. I'm 20 years old. I have a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever go through this kind of drama?
Do I ever what?
Do you ever go through this kind of drama?
I don't know what this kind of drama is.
Any kind of drama. Not married.
Oh, my God.
I want to be
baby. If you going through anything and what kind of drama pertaining to this conversation? No, baby, just what's going on in your mind? Just what bothers you?
You ever been in a drama or anything like, on TV or anything or drama?
Colette?
Oh, hi, Darian.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I didn't know I was on the air. I was just calling to say hello, and
Darian.
I am a fairly new listener.
Mm-hmm.
But I was calling to find out, are you feeling okay today? You
There it is.
Although there were attempts by her fiancé, who was the engineer of her program, to help her get through it, it was obvious to listeners, it was obvious to the guest, David Tell, that was in the studio, that there was something wrong with Darian.
Hey, while you're there in the studio today, it sounds like Darian's a little drunk this morning.
You think she is?
Have a good time and take advantage of her, all right?
Are you a little tipsy tonight? Darren? Hello?
No, not at all. I'm just,
Okay.
You know what?
Is it the Olympics? 'Cause
No,
it does seem like to me.
no.
Dave, are
I'm
you
a
doing
chronic insomniac. I haven't slept for 5 days.
Not surprisingly, Darian would go on to lose her job. She would later say that this was the best job, the one at Free FM, had been the best radio gig she had ever had, and she took full responsibility for the firing. In late 2007, she gave an interview to All Access, the radio industry trade publication, and in it, a lot of things came out. Facing severe depression after losing her job and an inability to find work, Darian was trying to reinvent herself. And did that mean lies? Yes, it meant more lies. It's an interesting article that talks about how she got certain jobs in the past. Fictional takes on how she stood outside of a bathroom waiting on a PD to give her a job. Are they true? We may never know. But one of the things she talked about is an intimate relationship with Opie and Anthony. Opie specifically, knowing him in the trenches of New York. Remember, she had only worked in New York for a few short months. She would later go on to address these facts, in quotation marks, on the Opie and Anthony show.
Why were you making stuff up, though? Like, we never even met you, and you're talking about these...
This is the first time we've ever talked to you. You know that, right?
That's so not true, and you know that.
No, I would swear on it. There is no... we've never spoken to you.
I know you would. But that's not true.
When did we talk?
When did we speak?
Oh, come on now.
When?
We're calling you out. We're calling you out.
I really want to know. Maybe we have amnesia or something, or Alzheimer's.
I think you do.
Now a pariah of sorts in the radio industry, Darian found it increasingly hard, even impossible, to find work. She would keep her fans updated on her blog, but it was filled with inaccuracies. She even talked about Opie and Anthony wanting to interview her. There was no interview. She talked about going on The View and even being contracted to guest star for the very conservative, as she put it, Elizabeth Hasselbeck. Again, all lies. Over 2007 and 2008, Darian would try her best to get back into the radio industry. She had a lot to tell. And after 8 months at the Epiphany House in San Francisco, an adult treatment center, she was finally feeling better both mentally and physically. Perhaps she was starting to get the best of her demons. In early 2008, she broke her leg. Checked herself into a hospital in Oakland, but there were complications. In a utterly heartbreaking and shocking turn of events, Darian O'Toole was dead on March the 31st at 40 years old. Complications due to a broken leg. It was so bizarre, and the timing so close to April Fool's Day. In fact, a lot of newspapers didn't report on it to April Fool's Day. No one believed for a long while that she was actually dead. In addition to her critics, and there were many, there was also an outpouring of support from people in the industry. She always had time to talk to somebody trying to make it in radio, and they said she was a great lover of people. Kevin Walker, pictured here, who had been her general manager, who had both hired and fired her, said that she was not a shock jock. She simply spoke the truth, and that she had been a pioneer for women in radio. Despite her setbacks, despite her demons, and we all have them, Darian O'Toole, Karen and Began, was somebody who thirsted for success and tried her best to reach the top in everything that she did. But in the end, perhaps celebrity did kill this radio star. Karen was cremated in California, with her gravestone being in her native Nova Scotia. She's survived by her father, many friends, many family members, including a sister-in-law who has done a lot to keep her memory alive. I also want to thank Bev Boy's vlog. His information was amazingly helpful in putting together Karen's life story as best I could. He has a great insight on life in Nova Scotia and was a friend of Karen's, actually growing up with her. Hats off to him.
Is there such a thing as an actress or a disc jockey or an actress who does not lie?
Yes, they pretty much do things like, hey, like fries with that?